Hey guys, I wanted to talk to you about multiplying and dividing mixed numbers. And so after helping some people with the task cards yesterday, I wanted to go back and review really just doing the problems with a mixed number, divided by a mixed number, or multiplying a mixed number by a mixed number. So we're going to start on page 171 in your book. So if you will open to page 171, we'll get started. Let me flip this around. Okay. So at the top, it talks about a real-world situation, and it talks about the eyeball of an Atlantic. Let me lock this in so it doesn't zoom in and out on you the whole time. The eyeball of an Atlantic giant squid is about 12 times as large as that average human eyeball. And the average human eyeball is 1 1/4 inches across. Draw a bar diagram to compare the average size of a human eyeball to the average size of the Atlantic giant squid's eyeball. So what we know is that the giant squid eyeball is about 12 times as large as the average human. Okay, so I'm going to draw a big thing. Fraction strip, bar, whatever. And that's going to be the squid eyeball. Okay. And then right below it, I'm going to draw another one. Okay, don't judge me on my stuff. And we're going to have this divided into 12 parts because it says it's 12 times. So I know half of 12 is 6, so I'm going to go halfway. Half of 6 is 3. So that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 parts. 3's in the middle. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 parts. And they said that the average human eyeball is 1 1/4 inches across. Okay, so that means that this part right here would be 1 1/4 inches, representing the human eyeball. Okay. So basically what we've done is we've made our diagram. So what they want us to do now is they want us to use our diagram to write a multiplication expression that shows the size of the Atlantic giant squid's eyeball. So basically we know it would be 12 times 1 1/4. Okay? And then it says write your multiplication expression from problem 1 using improper fractions. Okay, so we know 12 would become 12 over 1 to make that an improper fraction, right? And then our 1 1/4, and if it helps you, if this helps you, great. If you don't need it, great. Remember our t and our x. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 1 would be our 5/4. Okay? And I'm going to write with something darker. And so then they want us to multiply to find the size of the squid's eyeball. So we can, whoa. Okay, I'm going to put this over here to the side so you can see this better. I'm going to do 12 over 1 times 5/4. Okay, we know that 12 and 4 are both divisible by 4. Okay, so 4 divided by 4 would be 1. 12 divided by 4 would be 3. Can't do anything with the 5 and the 1. We multiply across. When we multiply across, 3 times 5 would give us 15, and 1 times 1 is 1, which gives us an answer of 15. So our answer here would be 15, and that would be, don't forget about your label, that would be 15 inches. So that means that that giant squid's eyeball would be 15 inches across. Across would be the diameter. Sorry, I didn't have something to drink. Okay. Then it says, write a related division expression for your multiplication expression. What is the quotient? Okay. Well, you remember in, those lower grades, I don't know, maybe 3rd grade, where they taught you that if 3 times 2 is 6, then 6 divided by 2 is 3. That's all they're wanting you to do here. And so we know that the answer was 15. So we could say 15 divided by 1 and 1/4 would be 12. Okay. All right. Well, I hope that is helpful there. So let's go to the next page. On page 172. says, to multiply with mixed numbers, write each number as an improper fraction. Okay, that's huge, right? Okay. And here they have some examples. They've got determine 1/3 times 1 3/4. Okay. They first wanted you to estimate. And when you estimate, you are rounding to see if your answer is reasonable, right? You're rounding before you work it. And so I'm going to cover this up. Okay. So it says use compatible numbers. So they're saying that 1/3 is close to 1/2. 1 3/4 would round to 2. And what's half of 2? Half of 2 is 1. Okay. So let's see if their actual answer is close to that. So they had 1/3 times 1 3/4. 1/3 is a fraction, so you leave it the same. 1 3/4, we would multiply 4 times 1, and then add the 3, which would give us the 7/4. And do you realize that all we're doing here is just renaming that one whole? That one whole is 4/4 plus the 3/4 gives you the 7/4. That's all you're doing there when you're multiplying and adding. Okay, so you're changing those whole numbers to renaming them just as a fraction using the denominator. So if the whole number was 2, you would have 8/4. Okay, and so then we're ready to multiply across. 1 times 7, 3 times 4, because you couldn't simplify before you multiply there, and so you would get 7/12. Now 7/12 is close to, it's a little over a half, so that would round to 1, wouldn't it? And our estimate was 1, so that tells us, yeah, our answer is reasonable, isn't it? Okay, number 2, this is talking about the Hoover Dam contains 4.5 million cubic yards of concrete. Cubic yards is 3-dimensional, meaning length times width times height. And it says the Grand Coulee Dam, I guess I'm saying that correctly, in Washington State contains 2 2/3 times as much concrete. How much concrete does it contain? Okay, so looking at how they did this, they first looked at the estimate, 4.5. You could have rounded that 4 to, you know what? They were doing compatible numbers. If you rounded that 4 to 5, well, you still could. If you did round it to 5 and that 2 2/3 to 3, you would have 15. So that is another option for your estimate. Okay. And remember, estimates are just that. They're not exact, okay? So looking at this, it has 4 1/2 times 2 2/3. You first write the mixed numbers as improper fractions, okay? You do that on both of those, all right? And they did that. I'm gonna like write it a little bit more detailed, okay? So I'm gonna put it over here to the side, and I'm gonna do 4 1/2 times 2 2/3. So if we write the mixed numbers as improper fractions, 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 would be 9/2. 2 2/3, 3 times 2 would be 6, plus 2 would be 8/3. And then we look at what can we simplify before we multiply. 2 and 8 are both divisible by 2, so 2 divided by 2 would be 1, 8 divided by 2 would be 4, and then 9 and 3 are both divisible by 3, 3 divided by 3 would be 1, 9 divided by 3 would be 3, and then we can multiply across. So 3 times 4 on the top for the numerators, and 1 times 1 on the bottom for the denominators, and we would get 12 over 1, which would just be 12. So that means there are 12 million cubic yards of concrete in the Grand Coulee Dam. And check for reasonableness. Is 12 equals to 12? Yes. But 12 is also, it's close to 15, isn't it? It's close to 15. So yeah, our answer is reasonable. Well, let's look at these at the bottom. We've got 3/8 times 3 1/3 for A. So first thing we do is we make any of our mixed numbers or whole numbers improper fractions. And so 3 1/3 would become 3 times 3 is 9, plus 1 is 10 thirds. And then can we simplify before we multiply? Absolutely. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 3 divided by 3 is 1. Look at the 8 and the 10. The 8 and the 10 are both divisible by, they're both even numbers. So they're both divisible by 2. 8 divided by 2 would be 4. 10 divided by 2 would be 5. Multiply across. 1 times 5 is 5. 4 times 1 is 4. Now we have an improper fraction, so we have to divide. 4 goes into 5 one time, which is 4. Subtract, and you have 1 left over. This is the part everybody needs to be careful with. The quotient is your whole number. The remainder is the numerator. And the divisor is the denominator. So we have 1 1/4. All right? Let's look on the next page. The next page is page 173. This is dividing by a mixed number. Okay? Dividing by a mixed number, not any big deal. You had some yesterday, didn't you? First thing you have to do, you have to write the mixed number as an improper fraction. And so looking at that, we would have, I'll just rewrite it over here, 1 3/4 divided by 2/5. Now, I want to mention that you need to be careful because on some of your assignments that I was grading, guys, some of you were not taking the reciprocal. Okay, so watch this. So we need to 1 3/4 make that an improper fraction, right? Okay, so 4 times 1 is 4, plus 3 would be 7/4. Okay, then we're going to multiply by the reciprocal, which would be 5/2. Can we simplify before we multiply? Unfortunately, no. So we have to multiply straight across. 7 times 5 would be 35. 4 times 2 would be 8. And then we divide 8 into 35. which would go 4 times, which is 32. Subtract and you have 3, and your answer would be 4 3/8. Okay? Now let's look at, so look what we did. We changed it to an improper fraction and multiplied by the reciprocal. Same thing we've been doing. Look at number 4. We have 4 2/3 divided by 1 1/4. The first thing they want you to do is they want you to estimate. Or find an estimate. And so you're going to find that estimate by rounding. 4 2/3 would round to 5. 1 3/4 would round to 2. If you took 2 and divided it in half, you would have 2 1/2. Okay? So let's check and see if our answer is going to be reasonable. So we have 4 2/3 divided by 1 3/4. First thing we do, write the mixed numbers as improper fractions, right? So 4 2/3, that would be 3 times 4 is 12. 12 plus 2 would be 14. So that's 14/3. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 3 would be 7. Thank you, I went blank. 7/4. And then now we have to multiply by the reciprocal. So that would be 14/3. That first one stays the same. Division sign changes to multiplication. Remember, we keep the first one the same, change to multiplication, flip, or take the reciprocal of our second one. They're showing you right here that you can simplify before you multiply by dividing by the greatest common factor of 7 and 14. So 7 divided by 7 gives you the 1. 14 divided by 7 gives you the 2. And you can't do anything with the 3 and the 4. So we're going to multiply across. 2 times 4 would be 8. And 3 times 1 would be 3. And we would divide 3 into 8. 3 times 2 would be 6. 8 minus 6 would be 2. And our answer would be 2 2/3. Now, is 2 2/3 about or approximately 2 1/2? Absolutely, it sure is, isn't it? Woohoo! We did that right. Good job. Okay, let's look at the bottom. At the bottom, you've got 4 1/5 divided by 1/3. First thing we do is we make them improper, or change any mixed number to an improper fraction. So 4 1/5 would be 4 times 5 is 20, plus 1 would be 21/5. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and change that to multiplication and take the reciprocal of the second one, which would be 3/1. Can we simplify before we multiply? We have to multiply across. So 21 times 3 would be 63, and 5 times 1 would be 5. And we would divide 5 into 63. 5 would go into 6 one time. Subtract, and 5 would go into 13 2 times, which would be 10. And you would have 3 left over, so that would be 12 3/5. And that's in simplest form. Okay, now on letter D, we have 8 divided by 2 1/2. 8/1. I'm going to keep the division symbol because we've got to get our improper fractions for both of those terms. So 2 1/2. 2 times 2 would be 4, plus 1 would be 5, so that would be 5/2. And then we multiply by the reciprocal. Unfortunately, we're not able to do any simplifying before we multiply, so we just have to multiply across. 8 times 2 is 16, 5 times 1 is 5, and then we divide 5 into 16, and that would go 3 times. 3 times 5 is 15, and we would have 1 left over. So that's 3 1/5. Okay, let's look at E. I think I'm going to have to do E up here. Okay, so E is 1 5/9 divided by 2 1/3. Make the 1 5/9 an improper fraction. So 9 times 1 is 9, plus 5 would be 14, divided by 2 1/3. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. And then we multiply by the reciprocal. Now, I love it. We've got a situation where we can simplify before we multiply. 3 divided by 3 is going to be 1. 9 divided by 3 is going to be 3. 7 and 14 are both divisible by 7. 7 divided by 7 is 1. 14 divided by 7 is 2. Remember, at any point, if I'm going too fast, you can pause your video, you can rewatch it, you can slow it, you can watch it, go back and take the notes. Just that's the beauty of having a video for you. So 2 times 1 would be 2, and 3 times 1 would be 3. And our answer there would be 2/3. I'm going to put our answers over here. We had 12 3/5 for C, and we had 3 1/5 for D, and 2/3 for E. Okay. All right. Looking on page 174. Oh, I know you don't know this about me, but I love pecan pie. And so at Thanksgiving, I always look forward to having pecan pie. So Mrs. Conrad's pecan pie recipe calls for 1 3/4 cups of pecans. Mr. Conrad's. He plans to make 8 pies, oh wow, for his family reunion. How many cups of pecans will Mr. Conrad need? Wow, 8 pecan pies. That's going to be, I haven't checked the price of pecans lately, but sometimes they can be really expensive. So first we're going to find our estimate by rounding. Our 1 3/4 would round to 2. Our 8, we could leave at 8 because those are really compatible numbers. 2 times 8 is 16. Okay, so we can just see if our answer ends up being approximately 16. So what they did, same thing, they wrote the mixed number and the whole number as improper fractions right here. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 3 is 7, 7/4. The 8, they placed over 1. They kept the first fraction the same, changed the multiplications, or they've got the multiplication sign, and then they were just simplifying before they multiply. And so 4 divided by 4 is 1, 8 divided by 4 is 2, and then they multiplied the numerators. 7 times 2 is 14, 1 times 1 is 1. Okay, they just broke it down really step by step so they could give you an explanation over here with, these would be like your thinking steps, right? And the answer that they came up with was 14. Is that approximately 16? Absolutely. So Mr. Conrad will need 14 cups of pecans. I hope this helped, and so your assignment is going to be to go back, look at those, look at your Google Slides that I assigned yesterday. Remember, those weren't due until tomorrow, okay? And so go back and make sure that you did those correctly, and then I will see you in class. Have a great day.